Now to another big story we are tracking for you this morning, the latest on the coronavirus. Here's what we're looking at right now. The U.S. has now reached a somber milestone, 100,000 deaths. The CDC has new guidelines suggesting that people should open windows in vehicles whenever possible, especially in taxis and ride shares. Meanwhile, the economic toll is not slowing down. In today's Jobless report, experts expect to see that 2 million Americans filed for unemployment in the last week.
Each morning we are putting COVID-19 in context for you. Yesterday, we saw the largest number of cases reported in the Houston area in a single day. That number, 807. That's the largest single day spike since we started tracking the numbers. But there are a couple of factors that may explain the big jump. Earlier this week, we told you there was a delay in reporting due to the holiday weekend, Memorial Day weekend, and how some counties are presenting combined totals as a result. Another reason for the increase in numbers, cases inside Texas prisons. TDCJ reported 237 new inmate cases in Walker County prisons yesterday. And as we switch over to the statewide numbers, prisons, meatpacking plants, and nursing homes have all been a top concern across Texas. But there is a push to test most people or people most at risk. Here are the day's other big stories.
We should soon know how one of the hardest hit groups is holding up during this pandemic. Fort Bend County's newly formed COVID-19 strike team is currently testing every nursing home resident and employee in the county. The volunteer group, made up of some 65 firefighters, has already tested 800 people.
Harris County Precinct 1 Constable Alan Rosen says he's feeling good as he recovers from COVID-19. He had a minor fever earlier this month, so he got tested and immediately went into quarantine. Today, Mayor Sylvester Turner says goodbye to one of his closest advisors. The funeral service for Keith Wade is this morning. Wade died last week at the age of 65. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee says he had coronavirus. A new warning about antibody tests. New CDC guidelines say they're wrong nearly half the time and should not be used to determine if someone is immune to COVID-19.
Caring for a person with Alzheimer's is very difficult and demanding, and much more now during the pandemic that friends and family can't help. But a local nonprofit called Care Partners is still providing support to this vulnerable population. They've had to change their approach and are doing most things virtually and even delivering care packages.
And those are the big stories on this Thursday morning.
A huge ruling from the Texas Supreme Court, potentially setting up a case to be heard by the highest court in the land. Justices ruled that fear of COVID-19 does not constitute a disability that would allow for a mail-in ballot in this state. They heard those arguments in the case remotely via Zoom, actually, which was not lost on observers who pointed out the Texas Supreme Court met via Zoom and decided that people must vote in person. Let that sink in. Now, the Texas Democratic Party wanted to allow anyone to be able to vote by mail to avoid crowded polling places this November. Republicans fought back, saying that would open up potential for voter fraud. In the end, the court ruled not having immunity to COVID-19 does not qualify someone to vote by mail. So we're asking you this morning in our live survey, would you feel safe going to the polls in November? You can weigh in on khou.com/vote-now or by using our mobile app. Donald Trump weighed in. He says this is a big win in Texas. And on our Facebook page, the discussion kind of fell along these lines: for mail-in voting and against. Rebecca says if you can stand in line anywhere, you can stand in line to vote. Matt says the state and federal government use the mail to send us every document important to our lives. They can send ballots. Sounds like this case is not over yet, potentially headed to the Supreme Court. Of course, we'll keep an eye on this. Steph?
All right, Brandy, looking at that poll right now, 79% of people saying yes. We'll see if it stays that way all morning. Well, Disney World laid out its plans to reopen this summer, and as you would expect, it comes with a lot of restrictions to keep you safe. Lauren Tellerico connects the dots.
Disney World announced it is reopening in July, but the House of Mouse will look a lot different when visitors arrive. Let's connect the dots. Disney now says one of the largest tourist sites on the planet will partially reopen July 11th. That's when visitors can return to the Magic Kingdom and the Animal Kingdom. Epcot and Hollywood Studios are not slated to open until July 15th. No word yet on when the site's water parks will open back up. Disney shut down operations on March 15th as the extent of the coronavirus pandemic became clear. If you're planning to head to Disney World in July, be prepared for some changes though. Iconic features like parades, fireworks, and character meet and greets will be suspended. There will be more plexiglass barriers and contactless payment systems. Everyone headed to the parks will need a reservation, a temperature check, and employees and visitors will be required to wear masks. Disney did say it's thinking of setting up relaxation zones where guests can take off those masks. It did not say how many people will be let in, but don't expect the 80,000 people that usually descended on the park pre-pandemic. Disney joins Universal Orlando and SeaWorld Orlando that have already announced they will be opening in June. Orlando's health director says they will be watching these reopenings carefully to see if there is an uptick in coronavirus cases. Connecting the dots, I'm Lauren Tellerico for H-Town Rush.
All right, Lauren, and those family destinations aren't the only ones planning to reopen. Earlier this week, Six Flags announced its new rules, which also include online reservations and mandatory face masks. All right, Cheetah, let's get over to you for the one thing.
One thing you need to know in weather, even though we are